Most of us, for most of the year, will run based on how we feel. So, there won't be a plan in mind. But I would prefer that most of us had an idea of what sort of speed we should be running at. So, most of us are running by speed. When we go out for a run, we're thinking, right, I feel good, so I'm going to run fast. Okay, and often it doesn't go as well as we'd like. It's very easy to get stuck in ruts, whether that be through injury or through a lack of motivation with running. Running can be a soul-destroying sport. Okay, we've probably all experienced it at some stage where we find ourselves in plateaus and unable to get any quicker. When we run by feel, we'll often have big positive splits. Okay, so a positive split being when we run the first half a lot faster than the second. This means that the first half we feel great, and will give us a bit of an ego boost while we're in it. Often it lasts 15-20 minutes. We're running too quick, we feel great, but then it starts to hurt. So 80% of the run, whether that just be heading back home because you've gone way too quick, or else you're just struggling to try and keep up that pace that you started with, it's ego busting, right? It hurts and it makes us feel rubbish about ourselves. We learn very little from these runs. Okay, when we run too quick. I've got a graph here. This was a session I took back in 2007. I had to look quite a way to find a graph like this. We've got speed in the blue curve, heart rate in the red. You can see with the speed right from the start, it's up way too quick. They've started up at 17, 16 kilometers an hour, and the heart rate has shot up straight up to 180 beats a minute plus. Okay, it gets to a peak here at just over 190, probably 194, and they've realized that they've just gone too quick. All right, they've then slowed down to around 11, 10 kilometers an hour, and they've really struggled to just try and keep that pace for the rest of the run. If they had started off closer to maybe 12 and a half, I think we'd see a different graph there. You can see towards the end they're really flagging. If we had a line here, we'd see it's a lot lower, and obviously the heart rate slowed down because they just can't run any faster. When we run through speeds, we know what speed to stick at. It means that we'll achieve a slight negative split. So the first half is obviously slower than the second, and it's fun. It's a great feeling when we're running at a pace that we know we can achieve. We're running below our capability, so we shouldn't be puffing too much in the first half, and hopefully only 20% of the run is some hard work. Okay, it's some character building. All right, an achievable challenge, and we get to learn. All right, if we actually know what speeds we're going at, we can learn from each run. Wow, as I ask you guys after each run, what speed did you achieve for that run? We want to ideally record that and know for future. Right, I know that I can run for 5k at 10 kilometers an hour. I found it so hard or so easy. If we don't have any idea of how fast we're going, we don't learn anything. We don't know whether we've got quicker or not. So we can also look at programs versus an ad hoc approach. So we've talked about the ad hoc approach. This is the wider sense, so not just within a run, but over months. I don't use a program all year round. Okay, usually I'll use a program if I'm building up to a race. Okay, an event that I want to do well in. Okay, I'm not advocating that you should all be in a stringent regime all of the time. I know it can put pressure on us, and we've got lots of other things going on in life. With an ad hoc approach, there's zero admin. Okay, a lot of us have got too much admin in our lives already. With the program, they vary. All right, some programs will ask you to do a lot. I know mine can do, but there are easier admin programs as well, where you're just looking at what there is to do and then doing it, as opposed to recording things. Obviously we learn a lot more by recording and then looking back on it later on. But with an ad hoc approach, we run when we feel good. So if we run one day and we push ourselves hard, we probably don't feel like running the next day, so we don't. Sometimes that's not the case. Some of us can be very motivated if we're coming back from a break. run when we don't feel like running, and often run ourselves into the ground. With the program, hopefully you've got set days of the week that you're running, and say you've got 3 or 4 standard days that you're running. If the program is pitched right, then you should feel like running on the days that you're supposed to run, because you've had an easy day between each run, and the run that you've done has not broken you. It's not been a maximum effort every time you go out for a training. It's hard to forecast improvements and notice improvements with an ad hoc approach. As we've talked about, we don't record the speed, and it's hard to learn. All right. Whereas with the program, we know where it's going. We can see how it's going to get harder, and if we can keep up with it, then it tells us that we've improved. All right. It's also with an ad hoc approach, it's very easy to undercook yourself for a race, right? So I don't know how many of you have been through this, but signed up for a half marathon, maybe even a 10K, and obviously a lot of people undercook themselves for marathons. They've just not done the distance beforehand. They haven't set out a plan of how their mileage is going to increase week to week, and the legs just go. We have to teach our muscles to store enough energy in order to cover the distance that we're going to run. And whereas with a program, we've got a non-capacity. We've had the training runs to build up to it, and if we've stuck to that, then it should be very capable, assuming that we keep to the right speeds. So the aims of any running program, obviously we want to achieve regular personal bests. It's probably one of the best feelings you can get in running, and it can only happen if we're not trying to go for personal bests every time we run. Okay. We want to spend less time in pain, and by pain, we all get that puffing pain, and sometimes that feels good, but obviously you don't want to be injured. That's an obvious pain, but also just that pain of running and putting up the hurt on yourself. We've all felt it. We want to spend less time doing that, but still get good results, and it can be achieved. All right. But it takes a kind of a broader strategy as opposed to just approaching each run as it comes. And if we do pace things well, we'll spend more time in the zone. You may have heard the term. It's basically that time where you're totally focused on what you're doing, and you feel great. There may be pain, but it's just expected pain because you've done it before, and you know that there's a challenge. You're going to have to really push yourself in that last 500 meters, and that's going to be your PB. But it's achievable, and if you had set your sights too high, you may get into the zone for a certain period of the run, but you break. You can't hack it, because you've set your sights too high and you're quickly out of the zone. All right. Now the CRC Progressive Running Program, I thought this was a good opportunity just to talk about it a little bit. I kind of talk about it with people on a one-to-one basis, and that we have a 14-week sort of cycle that we're using. Obviously, this being orientation week, last week being time trial week. Next week we start our 12-week periodized plan. So obviously the idea is the more trainings you come to, the more free periodized training you get. Okay, so you find yourself in a program already. I was really hoping that the little laser pointer would work, but as soon as I put it on the TV screen, technology, yeah. But what we can see here, so this was basically the first 14 weeks starting back in January. We had O week before the 27th, time trial week after that, and then we went into, if you see the load here, it's basically just a 1 to 10 ratio of how hard the week was, or how hard we wanted the week to be for you. Load being intensity times volume. Okay, so intensity is basically speed versus kilometers. Week 1, easy, should be really easy, should be fun, just a chance to enjoy running, get to know people. Progressing for 3 weeks, and then we're cutting back for on week 4, so that's our first easy week. Again, we have another couple of easy weeks before we get further in. We'll talk more about easy weeks and hard weeks. We've got the Tuesday column with the technique and intervals. Thursday's our tempo run. We drop the technique work after 6 weeks, and we just focus on the intervals. you.